The 2016 MEFMI Combined Forum took place on the 4th of October in Washington, D.C. The annual event, which is held back-to-back with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank annual meetings, was graced by representatives from all the member countries, cooperating partners, and private sector officials. Running under the theme, Accelerating Economic Growth in the MEFMI region, the drivers, prospects, and policy implications, the event took place on the backdrop of falling commodity prices, depressed revenues, and drought, which have had a negative impact on the performance of regional economies. MEFMI Executive Director Dr. Caleb Fundanga welcomed the delegates to the forum and reaffirmed the Institute's commitment to assist member countries to achieve sustainable economic development.
It is a great pleasure that I welcome you all to the 2016 MEFMI Combined Forum. I'm greatly humbled and pleased to see such a large number of high-level representatives from our member states, as well as MEFMI technical and financial cooperating partners. On behalf of MEFMI, I would like to thank you all for accepting our invitation to participate in this year's forum. My sincere thanks also go to our distinguished panelists and speakers, many of whom have gone to great lengths to be here with us. Because of you, I'm confident that our goal-oriented deliberations will be vibrant and thought-provoking.
Guests of honor at the 2016 MEFMI Combined Forum, Zimbabwe's Finance Minister, Honorable Patrick Chinamasa, paid tribute to the Institute for promoting shared commitment in the region's quest to achieve sustainable growth and highlighted the need for increased collaborative efforts.
Allow me to take this opportunity to share some thoughts on the challenges and opportunities we face as a region in the quest to foster sustainable and inclusive growth. First, China's rebalancing from an investment-oriented point to a consumption-led growth heralds the end of the commodity boom, which will put severe strain on most of our economies, as we are largely exporters of raw commodities. So additional difficulties in Europe owing to geopolitical developments, and I mentioned the Brexit, which with its own uncertainties could further weaken the external demand for our exports and the supply of FDI and development aid. Second, global interest rates are likely to move higher over the next decade due to gradual tightening of monetary policy in the USA and elsewhere. Aging populations in the advanced world, as well as China, will increasingly limit the global savings pool at the same time when the demand for infrastructure investments takes off in Africa.
The event was hosted with financial support from General Electric GE, a company that provides a broad array of products and services in power generation as well as investment solutions. President and Chief Executive Officer of GE South Africa, Mr. Thomas Konditi, told delegates that economic growth in Africa will hinge on the ability of regional economies to invest in sound infrastructure and harnessing the private sector in financing development.
With public balance sheets shrinking, how do you drive mobilizing of private capital into the space? The second is, how do you make project delivery more effective in getting the projects up and running? And then thirdly, how do we build capabilities in our systems to handle more sophisticated, innovative financial transactions, PPPs, and the like? So first, we really have to catalyze the private engagement in project financing. Bank lending, which has been the norm, is shrinking for either macroeconomic reasons or regulatory. And this is something where if we don't have broader private sector engagement, we will not be able to tap into that source for everything. Long-term investors, such as insurance companies, pension funds, and sovereign wealth funds, can be good alternative sources, but they also see pressure and have a different appetite for risk, as well as understanding some of our more bespoke projects that we have in the region.
Main speakers at the forum stressed the urgent need to invest in infrastructure, innovative financing mechanisms, as well as harnessing public-private partnerships in economic development across the region.
We are certainly in a position to say that, Africa is terribly lagging. We knew this probably. This is just a way to put this to rest once for all. If someone says Africa doesn't need infrastructure, this is certainly one way to say, well, I'm sorry, we do need to invest more. Now, if you take energy as an example, just to give you some specific numbers, electricity access rate is around 32% in Africa, and our goal as African countries is to meet universal access by 2030. 64% of our population would have to be connected to some form of electricity. This is a huge challenge. The generation capacity is between 1 to 2 gigawatt per year. The need is around 6 to 7 gigawatt per year, and the infrastructure investment per year is between $40 to $50 billion per year.
Connectivity means big investments. Connectivity comes at the cost of a lot of expenditure on roads, not just roads, but roads. As the city gets bigger, a higher proportion of the inner city has to be devoted to roads, maybe 30% of the space. And it requires density. If I want to connect my left hand and my right hand, how can I do it? Two things, both complementary. I can build a link between them, that's the transport link, or I can move them closer together, that's building for density. Typical African city is low density because it's a single-story city of shacks. There hasn't been the investment in multi-story. Multi-story does not mean high-rise. Transport links do not mean railways. The right technology for lower middle income cities for transport is roads with bus lanes.
The primary thing, the most important one, is a need for realism about the potential for PPPs in different infrastructure sectors and what it takes to get them done. And what it takes to get them done doesn't just include support from DFIs and MDBs, as you'll see from the data, that's very important in this region. But it also includes a focus on sector reforms and related issues. Secondly, we would say that a critical factor is improving decision-making around projects. And we say that because the earlier you can get good decisions about which projects to do and which projects to do as PPPs, and in our view, most of the time those are separate decision points, the higher the chances of success.
The 2016 MEFMI Combined Forum also saw the launch of the Manual on Risk-Based Supervision, which is expected to help member countries comply with core principles of effective banking supervision.
The risk-based supervision manual that we developed is intended to provide some framework within the countries in MEFMI that do not already have a country-specific manual, for which they can actually build, around which they can build their own supervision approaches. As it is, we found that in some countries there's a lot of labor turnover and very new people keep coming in all the time. So it's important for us to have something that can be used for induction and training as well. But also we think it can be used as a reference point for the countries.
Participants described the event as fruitful and productive as it gave them a chance to interrogate some of the key issues confronting the region. After hours of serious engagements, it was time for Bank of Botswana Governor Ms. Lina Moholo to give a vote of thanks. She expressed a sincere appreciation to all delegates for participating in the 2016 MEFMI Combined Forum.
Overall, the discussions have reaffirmed that the MEFMI region is now experiencing growth whose outlook is lackluster. It is susceptible to a number of risks, key among them being the tightening of external financing conditions and anemic growth of main trading partners, particularly China and Europe. We are obviously indebted to the MEFMI Secretariat and its constituent parts. When I say constituent parts, I'm referring to all of the staff members of MEFMI, senior and otherwise, because without everybody at MEFMI here in Washington, D.C. and in Harare, what has been happening all morning would not have been possible.
MEFMI was proud to have hosted yet another successful gathering of ministers of finance and central bank governors. There was optimism among the delegates that the current headwinds will be overcome and the region will regain its economic momentum in line with the African Agenda 2063, which call for action to all segments of African society to work together to build a prosperous and united Africa.